back, guys. Today we're going to continue our NFL predictions with Week 6. And last week sucked for me. I went 7-6, which puts my total season up to 48-30. The overall record's good, but last week, oh boy, it was not a fun week. Not here, and not even on my fantasy football team. And if one thing I learned, two things I learned last week. One, always pick a team that's a little more experienced than a young team. That bit me in the back with Philadelphia and the Rams, and even Vegas and the Packers. And two, never put too much trust in Green Bay. And speaking of Green Bay, luckily they're on a bye week, so hopefully they can get Aaron Jones back healthy once that bye week ends, as is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are finding unusual ways to win games, especially in games that they should not be in. They always find a way to win. And if you ask me right now, TJ Watt's my defensive player of the year by a freaking mile. Because I feel like every week he's making a play. But anyway, those are the bye weeks. Let's get on to the picks. And unfortunately, we're going to start off with a Thursday night dud, at least for one team. We got the Denver Broncos taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. The Broncos silenced by Hackett, because Nathaniel Hackett, even though he was the offensive coordinator for the Jets, his team, the Jets, came into Denver and got a W over the Snowfall Broncos. Meanwhile, the Chiefs, close game against the Vikings. It was a lot. I knew this was going to be a close game. It was closer than what the people think. And Taylor Swift was not in the audience. I think for this game, short week, the Chiefs at home. This one's going to be an obvious pick. And if anyone plays the Eliminator Challenge, if you have not eliminated the Chiefs yet, this will be the perfect week to do it. And then we have more London football. Back-to-back games. This game will be played in Toppin Sphere Stadium, which that's not the name of the stadium, but it's spelled something like that. But anyway, we have the two teams that took painful divisional losses. We have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Tennessee Titans. Start off with the Ravens. They had a 10-point lead, 10-0, and proceeded to get outscored 17-0 because the Ravens' hands are just for decoration. 9 drops for the Ravens. And some pretty bad coaching decisions, like going forward on a 4th and 2 towards the end of the first half when you have the best kicker of all time, or throwing it on a 3rd and goal from their own 3-yard line, which got picked off by Joey Porter Jr. Those decisions will bite you in the back. Meanwhile, the Tennessee Titans lost to the Indianapolis Colts. Lost in Indianapolis for the first time since 2018, when Luck was there. This game, I feel like, is a must-win for both teams. But I do think the Ravens are a slightly better team. And while I think the Ravens, they pretty much have leads in every game they played. They should not be 3-2. But I do think they're going to bounce back and get a win over the Tennessee Titans. Following that up with the Washington Commanders traveling to Atlanta to take on the Falcons. The Commanders became the first team to lose to the Bears this year, and you could blame their defensive performance. That defense is pretty much god-awful. Meanwhile, the Falcons, Desmond Ridder had himself a day at quarterback. He nearly threw for over 350 yards. Kyle Pitts was not an accessory. They actually put him to use. And kudos to Desmond Ridder, because he responded to massive criticism after 2 very bad weeks. I think because he never lost at home and he's more comfortable playing at home, this one, I think, will easily go to the Atlanta Falcons. Give me the Falcons to win. Next we have is a possible Tank Bowl, maybe. We have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Chicago Bears. Bears, y'all won a game. Well, y'all beat the Commanders. Justin Fields finally looks like he looks back to normal. DJ Moore, he went crazy crazy last Thursday. And the defense, they didn't play that bad either. This is what this team should have been than what they started off of. Meanwhile, the Vikings, another close loss, and it's not going to get any easier for them as Justin Jefferson will now be out for at least a month with a hamstring issue. I do think the Vikings, I think their season is pretty much on the verge of being over. And I'm actually leaning towards taking the Bears in this one. And you know what? I'm actually going to go with the Bears. If they play like they play on Thursday Night Football, and with the Vikings pretty much almost in borderline free fall, I think the Bears going to get the win. Next up, we have a very interesting game on the 1 o'clock slate. We've got the Seattle Seahawks coming off a bye, taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals looked like the Bengals last week against the Arizona Cardinals. And Ja'Marr Chase had not one, not two, but 3 touchdowns. And he let the world know that he's always open. And Seattle, last time we saw them, they beat the New York Giants. Easy. And that's pretty easy. This game, I think, is going to be... I think this one could go in any direction. But I am going to lean slightly towards the Bengals to win this game. And it all boils down to their defense. I think their defense is slightly better than Seattle's. Again, Seattle defense is very young. And they do got some promising young pieces. But in the turns, I like Cincinnati in this game. I do expect this to be a really good game. But I do trust the Bengals at home a little more over Seattle. Follow that up with the best team in the NFL, the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Cleveland Browns, which they will be wearing their white helmets for in this game. Well, the Browns had a bye week last week. Hopefully they'll be able to get Deshaun Watson back healthy for this game. Because the last time we saw him, it was clear that they needed him to perform, needed him to win that game. Dorian Thompson-Robinson was not ready. Meanwhile, the 49ers, they put the nation on notice by not only beating the Dallas Cowboys, they destroyed them 42-10. Brock Purdy threw for 4 touchdowns. George Kittle had a hat trick. And yes, when your offense is doing good and your defense is doing good, they're clearly the best team in the league. And I said it in the preseason that the 49ers will be the best team. But I do see the 49ers possibly slipping up here against Cleveland. They're coming off a hot win. They're feeling great about themselves, beating the Cowboys in prime time like every other team does. And I think they could be caught slipping against Cleveland. But I'm not going to go with that. I am going to stick with the obvious. I'm going to go with the 49ers to win. And Nick Bosa, he'll have himself 2 sacks. Less said about this game, the better. Let's move on. Follow that up with the 2 leading teams in their division. Who would ever thought it would have been we all thought the Jacksonville Jaguars were going to be in the top. But whoever thought Indianapolis would be in this situation? Well, anyway, the Colts, they beat the Titans at home for the first time in 2018. Good for them. And it wasn't because of Jonathan Taylor. No, Zach Moss led the way as he had himself a career day. Meanwhile, the Duval County boys, they went 2-0 in London. But after them beating the Bills, they kind of have some momentum going for them. Going to be interesting to see. It's kind of odd that these 2 teams are playing each other. Remember, they played each other week 1. Jacksonville went on the road and got the win. But now they're going to complete their season series as early as week 6. Wow. But for this game, I am going to go pick the Jacksonville Jaguars. I do think they are the better team. And without Anthony Richardson in this game, and yes, I am a fan of Gardner Minshew. I do think the Jaguars has a little more than the Indianapolis Colts to beat them. Followed that up with the New Orleans Saints traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. The Saints, not only did they get a big win over New England, it was a shutout win over New England. They finally look like the team we all envisioned them being in the preseason, with their good defense and Derek Carr taking this team to the next level, although this game was pretty much overshadowed by the Saints defense. As for the Houston Texans, last week's loss against the Falcons was an epitome of a growing pains type game. These games for them are what happened last week was what, how can I say this? It was a game that was going to happen. It was going to happen that they're going to have these growing pain struggles, because I felt like they only managed to kick field goals in this game, and those field goals kind of came back and hurt them. So speaking of, remember what I said in the beginning of this video where I learned that experience trumps youth? I do think that this was going to happen. I am going to pick the New Orleans Saints to win on the road, but I will not be surprised if Houston wins this game. Follow that up with the New England Patriots taking on the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders, Monday night win over the Packers. I honestly did not see this coming, but 3 interceptions, and it was their defense that performed pretty well. I'm kind of impressed, Raiders. Keep it up. And for the Patriots, less said about your last 2 weeks, the better. 3 points scored in the last 2 weeks, and that includes a shutout over the New Orleans Saints at home, Belichick's worst home loss in his career. As a matter of fact, these last 2 weeks have been the worst coaching weeks for Belichick has ever had, and that even dates back to his Browns days. The Patriots are a mess right now. They don't have an identity on offense. Mac Jones is struggling. But as for the Raiders, let me just mention this. Y'all remember the last time these two teams faced? We had to deal with Jacoby Myers, the double agent. He basically handed Josh McDaniels, his current coach, the win. And this is a game where Belichick is taking on a former assistant. I am going to go ahead and take the Raiders to win this game. I think Jimmy G will perform well against a Belichick's team, and the Patriots, y'all should just pack the season up. It's not going our way this year. Following that, we have a very interesting game that got flexed into the 4 o'clock spot. We have the Detroit Lions traveling to Tampa Bay to take on the Buccaneers. And while the Buccaneers came off a bye week and a surprisingly 3-1 start, the Lions took care of business against the Panthers. And they basically capitalized, using this game to capitalize on the Panthers' turnovers. 21 points they scored off of 3 Panthers turnovers, and that was pretty much the difference. This game, this will be another perfect test to see where the Buccaneers are as a team. This is their legacy game. They're going to wear the creamsicle uniforms. That's why I have their old logo represented. But I am going to lean towards the Lions to win this game. I don't expect too much scoring in this one, but I won't be surprised if there will be. But I do think this is going to be a pretty good game for 2 very up-and-coming teams. Following that, we have the Arizona Cardinals traveling to Los Angeles to take on the Rams. The Rams lost to the Eagles, and it was mostly because of the lack of experience on defense, their inability to stop A.J. Brown, and a tush-push towards the end of the first half. Meanwhile, the Cardinals lost to the Bengals. Nothing too much spectacular, but hey, they're trying. I gotta give them points for effort here at least. I am going to pick the Rams to win. They're at home. Cooper Kupp, this will be his 2nd game back. He and Puka already looking like a wide receiver tandem. And If the defense can find a way to slow down the Cardinals' offense, this shouldn't be a problem for the Rams. Next we have is the Philadelphia Eagles traveling to New York to take on the Jets. And you want to know a fun fact? The Eagles never lost to the Jets. And I don't think they plan on starting to do that anytime soon. The Eagles are one of the best teams in the league, best team particularly in the NFC, and they even despite them not peaking yet. And yes, I did a pick against them, mostly out of spite, but I do think the Eagles are going to pretty much take care of the Jets. But if the Jets win, let's just say I'm gonna be one happy dude if the Jets win. Next we have is why? Just why? Are we stuck seeing the New York Giants in prime time yet again? This team is I know they got to win this year, but 4 out of their first 6 games are on prime time. Not even the Cowboys can say this. We'll talk about them next. But seriously, do anyone wants to see the terrible New York Giants on prime time yet again? And as for the Bills, they lost to the Jacksonville Jaguars thanks to ref ball. The Bills are going to win this game, and I just hope and pray that we don't see the Giants with another night game. I know they got another Monday night game scheduled, but man, I do not want to see the New York Giants on Sunday night again. And finally, we have the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Los Angeles Chargers for Monday Night Football. The Cowboys, it was not a good day last week for them. They got destroyed, out-coached, out-performed. They basically didn't show up against the 49ers. And I had that sense that this was going to happen. And there are already talks about this team being fraudulent. Because all the teams they beat, 1-3, are now 1-4, 2-3, 1-4. And you could throw in the 1-4 Cardinals, who they lost to. When they met with the 49ers, our little heavyweight matchup turned into a second round knockout. Meanwhile, for the Chargers, they had a bye week, and Justin Herbert hurt his finger, but I don't think that's going to be a big problem. Austin Eckler, he will be back for this game, and I think he will have a big part. Cowboys, they're pretty much. This is a typical game that I think the Cowboys could probably win, but I'm actually going to go with the Chargers to win because there are some doubts lingering in that locker room. Like for the Cowboys, Van Der Esch, he's out for a couple weeks due to a neck problem. CeeDee Lamb coming out saying this team doesn't have an identity. Or Dak Prescott, he's too having some criticisms of his last week performance. And I think with the Chargers having an extra week of rest, I just hope Brandon Staley don't out Brandon Staley himself in this one. I'm going to give the Chargers the win, and the Cowboys will fall to 3-3 heading into their bye week. But anyway, tell me what y'all think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. See you next time.